G'day Flosstube, Anna, aka the Mapping Stitcher, back with another stitching update. I think it's been about a month since I filmed, and as per usual at the moment it's been a very chaotic month with the trip to the States and all sorts of work randomness. And so short story is I've got about 4 whips to show you today. Those are simply the 4 whips that have a fair bit of progress that I know has been done in the last week. It's quite likely there's other whips that I've touched, but you'll have to see those next time. Had an excellent trip to the States, actually. I was there primarily for a work conference, and so we were in Palm Springs. Have to admit, big cold California. Not super impressed with your weather, but in Palm Springs it was relatively nice. LA was kind of cold and miserable. But while I was there, I did manage to meet up with several other Flosstubers, including Laurel and Alma. And we were supposed to actually meet Julie at Stitching at the Cabin. But unfortunately, she had crook dog and dealing with snowstorm aftermath and wasn't able to join us, which was a bit of a bummer. So next time I get sent, excuse me, to that conference, we'll have to try again. The coughing had stopped before I went to the States, but started out one random day in Palm Springs, just like a light switch had been flipped. No coughing to coughing. So I have my water bottle, so I'm not coughing. All right, so without further ado, what did I work on? We're just gonna start at the top of the pile because that's about all the brain cells I have. I am supposed to be getting ready for another trip over to Perth. But you know, filming a Flosstube seems ever so much more productive. This first one, you know, far as unorganized, I didn't bring any of the pictures of the patterns completed to put in here, so I'll have to edit those in for you. First up is Greta Goldbroom by Bella Fillipina Designs. I'll put a picture in where what she's supposed to look like. Excuse me. She is stitched on a 28 count cashel. I've dyed myself. I spent ages working through that garland that goes across her dress. Yeah, there's still a whole lot of holes in there, and that's because there's a lot of beads and stuff through that garland. So it doesn't actually look, excuse me, doesn't look very finished. Cut that bit out. Doesn't look very finished, but I think at this point all of the stitches through that garland area that are cross stitches rather than beads are finished. I also spent a fair bit of time basically trying to fill out this skirt some more. I do think the top of the handle in her hand is new. Probably only had 2 or 3 days on it, but there were 2 or 3 really good days. So fair bit of effort, even though it wasn't many days spent on it. So she's coming along nicely. I think she will come to Perth with me, which I had hoped to meet up with Aussie Stitcher while we were in Perth, but unfortunately I don't think that's going to work, which is a bit of a bummer. Again, next time. I suspect it won't be the last time I wind up in Perth. I also took this one. I started specifically to take to the States, figuring that it would be good to go on the plane, and that's Pandemic by Long Dog Samplers, all done in the single color of silk. And forewarning, the colors tend to blow out the camera, so don't worry too much about the colors. I did manage to take a photo at one point where the colors were half accurate, so I'll put in a picture of the photo so you can get an idea of the actual colors, but expect the camera to blow this out and look all funky when you actually see it. So, I've seen it do worse. So it's a very corally, a bit vibrant and bordering on neon for what I was expecting coral, with the blue and purple, which you lose all the variegation in the way the camera is picking this up. But this is a blue purple variegated thread through here. I am actually really pleased now that there's some volume of the stitched bit done. It is toning down the neonness of the coral quite nicely where it's been stitched up. So I think it'll be all right in the end. It'll definitely be one of those pieces where you don't leave a whole lot of extra fabric showing around the edges, because the fabric on its own is just a bit much. Having said that, I picked up this pattern when it was a freebie. It was purely a case of let's do something a little bit different, and bright neon coral sort of fabric certainly is a little bit different. So it's meeting those criteria, and I don't hate it. And it's actually a really nice stitch. I'm planning on taking this when we go to Perth as well, and I will stitch on this on the airplane. It got a lot of attention on the airplane to and from the States. Just because it's so easy with the one color. You don't even have to think about it. This is stitched on a smaller count because I'm only using one thread, so I think it's a 36 count, but again, dyed myself. I only had the one hank of the floss, so we had to do a smaller count just to make sure one hank did the whole piece. Pattern Keeper says I'm at about 15% of it complete, so I figure that's not too bad. Last time I updated the numbers in my Excel spreadsheet, it was saying I should finish it roughly April next year. I'm sure if I were to update the numbers today, that would drop even sooner, but those are, it's based on maintaining a stitch count every day, and my ability to maintain a given stitch count on any day could go months without seeing any stitches. So they're always very approximate estimates. In fact, this last one came to the States with me as well. And so this one had a fair bit of effort done in the States. And this is Fairytale Town. Abris Arts, I think is the name of the company. It comes as a kit. I did not use the kit Ada. I swapped it out for Even Leaf. So that's where she's at now. Hopefully I've inserted a picture of where it was before, so you can see there's a fair bit of progress. I think I was only about the fence line there last time I showed you, maybe a little bit more. We've now reached the top, so I'll go a little bit further to make sure I've actually got like the tallest tree in the pattern, but I could crop off some of the extra fabric up the top pretty soon because I know where it'll go. But I've made enough progress that direction that I've actually had to unroll all my extra fabric another wrap just to make room. I am finding this pattern, if you're considering stitching this project, like, it's beautiful. I love the design. It's gorgeous. I do not recommend buying the kit whatsoever. The paper chart that comes in the kit is darn near readable, and it takes a lot for me to, I'm not usually bothered by close symbols or whatever beyond a bit of annoyance. I certainly won't give up on a chart over it. And this chart is just down near freaking useless. So 0 out of 10, do not recommend the kit, even though the design is awesome. I also have some grief with all of this cobblestone here, I just reckon it's really blown out. Like I'm not going to try and change those colors, but I think you could have done a lot nicer job in charting those colors so that you got, you know, still light colors, but a more definition in the color changes and the shadowing than what you're actually getting with the kit threads. The threads themselves are okay. Like, I'm sure they're not DMC, they're just whatever random alternative cheap kits use. That in itself does not bother me, but the fact that that cobblestone, you put, oh, there's a lot of stitches in there. And it's 90% white with very little definition. So I really hope, looking at the finished picture, it looks like that's the lightest part of the cobblestone in the piece. So I'm hoping my unhappiness is restricted just to that little corner. But having said that, you know, it's where I started and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth before you even start. So, I have no idea how far percentage-wise I'm into that piece, but because it's not very tall, it's actually, you know, if you sit down and stitch on it, moves pretty rapidly. Yeah, so that, I think I said I swapped it out for an even weave. I think it was charted on 14, so I kept it at a 28 count even weave. It might be a 32 count even weave. It's not far off that anyway. Oh. The last one I spent a fair bit of time working on. I have to pardon all the threads on this one. Hold on, I'm gonna lose a needle. Is the world map project. Now this is an Etsy one. I'll link the store down below where I find it. Let me try and get all these threads out of the way. I forget how many pages I've done on this. I'll put a picture in of what it's going to look like at the end because you're only going to see a small snippet of it. But I'm working, so I think there's a page that ends roughly here, and I'm working to fill out that page so that then I can come along and do the bottom out to about that same point. Having said that, now that I'm using Pattern Keeper for a lot of this, you'll see, like over here, I've gone well past that page boundary just to try and limit the number of hanging threads. And again, I think genuinely the bottom of the page is about there, but I didn't want all these colors that I was just gonna turn around and pick up another page hanging, so I've just gone ahead and stitched them in. Trying to get rid of some of the volume of hanging threads, although, you know, where you have a harder gap, there still gets to be a lot of them, or a harder stopping point to where you're stitching. There still gets to be a lot of them. I wasn't expecting to see a balloon materialize in this page. I thought it was all going to be sort of background and arches and whatnot, but yo, all of a sudden we have yellows and reds. We have a balloon. I should have looked at what the numbers said we were up to for this percent-wise. I would suggest about the 17% mark again. Not really sure. This one, my estimated completion date has been falling behind again. I think at one point I was up to middle of 2035, and you know, now it's up to like December or even into 2036, because obviously this one did not go to the States because it's too much to haul, and yeah, so it didn't get any attention during the time we were gone, and it won't get any attention while we're in Perth. So it only gets attention basically when I'm sitting in front of the telly at nights, and even at the moment Pandemic's been seeing most of that, so quite enjoying stitching on Pandemic. So that's where that one is at. Hopefully next time you see it, I'll at least have finished that page with the balloon on it. That would be a nice goal to have. I was kind of working towards that before Pandemic distracted me. Not a whole lot of haul or anything to show you this week. I do just have a couple of pieces of fabric that showed up from my Fabric of the Month club. I get a Fabric of the Month through Under the Sea Fabrics. And apologies in advance, these are all in their plastic because I leave them that way, you know, so they're nice and clean until I actually want to use them, so I'm not going to take them out. But this one is Eros. It's looking a little bit purple in the camera. It's a lovely light blue. Yeah, I had distracted the tag says Ada, but I think that's just a background. All the things are listed and you circle the one it is. Type listing. It's actually, it is all of these are a 32 count linen. With the chatelaines and other bead heavy things, I do the 28, but if it's not in that vein, I tend to prefer the 32 just for a bit of smaller. So there's that. This one is green tea, which is coming across a bit browner than it is in real. It's a nice soft green. Nope, still looks brown on that side. Not a great deal of modeling in either of these. They're very subtle. And in fact, in this last one, there's not much modeling either. But this is a lovely dark blue. Probably reading a bit too purple off the camera. It's called Nephthys. Yeah, so actually a bit bummed that other three, there's none with a great deal of modeling, at least not that's visible on either side of the packaging. That's, I think, a little bit unusual. A lot of Leslie's stuff does have a fair bit of modeling. Having said that, I am sure I will find plenty of things to stitch on those. So they will just go into the fabric stash until that day comes. I think that's about it from me, guys. I will catch you in a couple of weeks. Hopefully I've got a bit more organized and yeah, whatever. Don't hold your breath. It probably won't happen. Until then, enjoy your stitching and I'll see you later. Bye.